Welcome, everyone. I'm Coach Nesci from Shooting School Basketball, and you are listening to Meet Your College Hoops Coach. We chat with college coaches to give you inside information on their college and their basketball program. Today, we're happy to have with us Coach Waleed Farid from Hartwick College in Oneonta, New York. And also joining us today is the owner of Shooting School, Anthony Pasalacqua. Coach, welcome. Coach Anthony, welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having me, Coach.
Glad you can make it. Coach, could you give us an overview on Hartwick College?
Sure. Hartwick College is a small private liberal arts school in upstate New York, Oneonta, New York, around central New York, about 3.5 hours away from New York City. It's a small school. We got about 1,200, 1,300 students. It's a very intimate atmosphere at Hartwick. We're members of the Empire 8 Conference, which is comprised of a bunch of schools up here in upstate New York. And we it's a regular small school. Some majors that we have that are prominent at our place: business, nursing, biology, psychology, criminal justice, also a big one. So that, in a nutshell, I guess, is Hartwick.
Great. And Coach, you just completed your 4th season. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's great. And I know, Coach, prior to that, you spent 7 years as an assistant at your alma mater, Stevens Tech, of which I guess did you play 1 or 2 seasons with Coach Anthony?
Me and Coach Anthony were teammates for 2 years.
2 years. Good. Coach, you maybe can give me some additional ammunition. I'm always looking for something that I could hold over Coach Anthony.
Absolutely.
We can talk about it later. It'd be helpful for me.
I'm going to stop calling him Coach Anthony. First of all, I'm not going to call him Coach Anthony. We know him as Pos. So Pos is probably one of the best teammates I've ever had. In my time playing. He's a guy who matched some of the things I was doing in my career in terms of always working hard, trying to get better, that kind of thing. So we got along pretty well. I remember the first time I met Pos. We met, but the first time we had a real conversation, I think, was during one of our first days of pickup. First question he asked me was, "Who do you work out with?" And from there, I knew we were going to be good because he was just trying to find somebody to get in the gym with.
Sure.
That was Pos. He used to pride himself on his steals, the number of steals he would get per game.
I had him beat, Coach. I had him beat for a while.
Really?
He literally would follow me around on the floor, and anytime I deflected anything, he dove right on it and get the credit for the steal. And then brag about it after when we looked at the box score. So
sounds about right.
You might know him as a shooter, but he was also an exceptional defender.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Coach.
Coach, what could you tell us about your institution that maybe sets you guys apart, or what is unique about Hartwick as regards to what you will offer or discuss with recruits about your school?
I think the thing we offer that I think is important when choosing school is a great overall experience for the student. And I think there's a lot that goes into that. We have all the benefits, that are offered by most small private schools in terms of, small class sizes, individual attention, strong sense of community and support for each student individually. Each student gets valued and invested in. But we have a couple things that I think, set us apart from some other places. First being the town of Oneonta. I think the town of Oneonta is a great town. It's a college town. Our school, like I said, I mentioned earlier, is smaller. We got about 1,300 kids. Right down the road, though, we've got a big state school.
Mm-hmm.
They got 6,000, 7,000 kids. You put the two schools together in that town, you got almost 10,000 college kids roaming the town. So we get a great college experience at Hartwick. You get the small school thing on campus, but you step foot off campus and now you got a big college town kind of atmosphere. There's a lot to do. I think our guys have never complained about, not having anything to do in terms of their, overall experience. Another thing I think is that kind of makes us a little bit unique is we have what we call the January term. So we have a fall semester, we have a January semester, and then we have a spring semester. So our fall semester and spring semester are a little shorter than most schools. But we have this January semester where during the month of January, our guys will take a class or so for 3.5 weeks or so. And the January term was invented or came up with to try to give kids a different kind of experience. A lot of kids at Hartwick use that time to go abroad and get these different travel experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, for basketball, we can't do that. We're in season. So our guys will take a class, do some stuff there. Some guys will take a class that's harder for them, that they only have to focus on that class. Class is like 2 or 3 hours a day, 3 or 4 times a week. But the cool thing about it for basketball that I think is unique is, when you add up all the time from the end of the first semester till the start of the second semester, it's actually a pretty big chunk of time where, we play about, I would say, 14 to 15 of our 25 games. And that's a time where you either have no class because it's a holiday or some kind of break, or you only have one class. And it eliminates a lot of the outside stressors, that happen at most places during the season. Your midterms or finals and that kind of thing. You only have to worry about those things in the beginning and start of your season, but the middle chunk, especially in January, we're probably playing our first 9 or 10 conference games. We only have to worry about one class, and it allows our guys to really focus on their class, but also just to enjoy the basketball season, the practices and all that stuff without that outside stress. So I think that's pretty cool, and you're not going to find that a lot of other places, I don't think.
I think that's a awesome advantage that kids that aren't in college yet may not understand how valuable that is, because you've got that gap from the holiday break that you can't, if you don't have that January option, you're kind of just waiting for practice and lifting, which is great, but you can't play for 15 hours in a day, so to be able to have some schooling and it's like an edge. You get an edge on people with that extra class in January. That's what I wish we could have.
It's a great point. We call it at NYU. We call it J term.
Yeah, we do too.
And probably I would say it's maybe about 8 or 9 years now that we've had it. But with our team, it started to be more popular maybe in the last 5-6 years. And I totally agree. The toughest part of time during the break was the fact that outside of basketball, these guys had all these hours where they, that was the toughest thing for freshmen, for our freshmen to adjust to over the break, because they were, going 90 miles an hour between classes and basketball when you start October 15th. And now suddenly it's like you have practice and your 3 hours of your day are taken up, but that's it. So just
and nobody's in school.
Yeah.
There's nobody at school. You're just like, what do we do?
Yeah. So and then on top of that, to be able to kind of get ahead of the curve a little bit by taking a class where you might be able to lighten up in another semester. So that's great, Coach. Coach, to all your players, they live on campus?
Yes. Yeah. Every student at Hartwick at the moment lives on campus. And we have some different living situations on campus, townhouses, apartments, that kind of stuff, all on campus. So it's pretty cool.
But it is all campus housing, because I know in some places they may be living technically within the campus limits, but maybe off campus.
No, everything's on campus at Hartwick.
Gotcha. And so, Coach, for you guys, what do you at Hartwick, what are kind of the biggest challenges you face, in your recruiting?
I mean, in terms of challenges, I don't know if this is a Hartwick specific thing. I think for us, the biggest challenge is just, making sure you find the right fit to your institution, to our program, what we're looking for in a player. I think at Hartwick, we're SAT optional, that kind of thing. So, we end up getting, we can choose from a pretty large pool of student athletes. And
yeah, Coach,
you know.
Coach, can I just ask you, maybe you could expand that on the aspect of SAT optional for those that might not know about that, what that is.
Yeah. So, outside of our nursing major, so if you're a nursing major, you do have to report your SAT scores. But outside of nursing major, we're SAT optional in terms of, we're trying to bring in a diverse, broad scope of different students from different backgrounds and that kind of thing. And we think, not making that standardized test mandatory helps us do that. It allows us to still reward the kid who's great in the classroom, but maybe had a bad day when it was test day.
Right. Or they're just not good test takers.
Right. Exactly. So, we go a lot off of, your regular GPA. That's what you do on a daily basis. You're a student at school on a daily basis. We think it's a better read on the kid, than just that one test. I mean, if you do well on the SAT, you can report it and it can help boost you in terms of merit aid, but it's not required, so.
Now, has it been that way your entire tenure at Hartwick? It's always been?
Yeah. Since I've been here, it's been that way.
Yes. Interesting. And you touched a little bit on, Coach, we're talking about quality players. What do you consider, when you're looking at, identifying prospects as quality players, what's quality players for you as regards to, point guards, shooting guards? What is it that you're looking for in the players you recruit?
First and foremost, I think we're just really looking for guys who can play, like guys who can do something well on the court. I think, I'm not just saying this because this is the Shooting School podcast, but I think shooting ability is probably one of the most important skills we look for. If you can shoot the ball from distance.
Coach, you're not saying it now because Anthony's up just right up there. Come on.
He would have recruited me, Coach. He would have recruited me.
I think I value shooting a lot. It's part of what we do in our program. We shoot a lot of threes. And I just think if you can shoot the ball, it ends up allowing you to do other things on the court. And whether you're actually good at them at the time you come to Hartwick or not, we can work on them and you can become a better player if you have that shooting ability. So that's one thing we look for. But in terms of, what we look for guys who can do hopefully multiple things, right? We're looking for some kind of versatility. That would be huge. I'm sure as I'm obligated, on this podcast to say, the words positionless basketball, it's.
Oh, boy. That word has been used through all my shows that I've done. I think probably 10 or 11 of 13 coaches I've spoken to so far have termed it the same way, Coach.
Yeah, and I think it's a big buzzword, and I don't think we play a brand of basketball that's kind of wide open and fast paced and that kind of thing, but I don't necessarily say we play positionless. We have positions. I think we've just changed the positions a little bit in terms of, we've got ball handlers, we've got wings, and we've got bigs. And then we have combos. If you can be a ball handler and a wing, that guy becomes pretty important. If you can be a wing and a big, that guy becomes pretty important. And I don't know if either of you guys play chess, but, those combos, those guys turn out to be like the queen on the chessboard for us. Like, we want to have as many queens as possible for us. So when we talk about positionless, we have positions, we just change them a little bit. And then for us, it becomes, we don't try to fill spots in our lineup. We're just trying to put the best lineup out there over and over. So that lineup could have 2 ball handlers, could have 5 wings, could have, 2 bigs and 3 guards, whatever it is. We're just trying to put the best lineup out there that's going to put us in position to win. I don't think at our level I have the opportunity to just pluck guys and plug them in. We just got to take the best talent and then build around
it. Yeah, Coach, I was going to mention, that I have this 6'9" monster that I know, but he can only play inside. He can't shoot, but he's unguardable inside. And he told me that, he would love to go to Hartwick, but I guess you won't be able to use him then, right?
No, I take him.
Oh, you sure? Okay.
I'll take him. That's, I take the talent and we'll figure out how to coach and put him in the best 100%. Positions possible.
I'm with you, Coach.
So yeah, that's kind of what we do with what we're looking for in terms of players.
Yeah.
We're just going to try to find the guys who can play.
Yeah, and kind of looking at maybe the intangibles in the recruiting, Coach, are there some non-negotiables for you on, what you're looking for in these young men that are going to be part of your program, possibly for 4 years?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't necessarily term them non-negotiables, but we look for some certain characteristics in guys who want to be a part of our program that kind of you could call it the DNA of our program. We look for 4 things in our recruits. The first thing I look for is I'm looking for a guy who loves the game of basketball, and not necessarily everybody loves playing basketball. They're playing the game, right? The game is great. I'm looking for a guy who loves it. He sleeps and dreams about it. He thinks about it all the time. He talks about it all the time. He watches it. He loves, everything that goes into it, getting better, working out, all that stuff. He's a guy who obviously you want to be able to have to tell him you can't be on the floor, right? And those are the guys we want. We don't want the guys who say it. We want the guys who live it, right? Who love the game. There's a reason I do that. I think I am one of those guys. I don't get along well with guys who don't love the game of basketball. So just it's just something I think, puts you in a position to be successful at Hartwick. Like I said, we want guys who talk about it, who watched the game last night and want to be in my office and argue about LeBron and MJ, those kind of things, right? So that's one thing we look for. The other thing, a couple things we're looking for. We're looking for guys who love to compete, right? Guys who understand the importance of winning and losing, guys who are going to give it their all in everything. Again, not just games. Everybody plays hard in games for the most part. I'm looking for guys who compete every day in practice, in every skill work session, in the weight room, chess, checkers, whatever it is, right? Like they're competitive. They want to win. They're going to give it their all. We're also looking for guys who constantly are trying to get better, right? Have a growth mindset, guys who aren't satisfied with where they are. You can be a good shooter, but you still want to try to become a great shooter, like those kind of things. And, we're the same as coaches. And then the fourth thing we look for, and it's one of the most important ones, is we're looking for guys who know how to play as a part of a team, guys who are good teammates, who care about the success of their teammates, good body language all the time, can take coaching, that kind of stuff, and aren't necessarily, in it for themselves. We don't want the guy who's happy, scored 20 and we lost.
Yeah. And what you're saying, Coach, is really what we all look for, right, in our players. And I think, for the young men and their families that are looking for colleges, you can't underscore what you're saying. But at the same time, as coaches, for us to be able to find those intangibles, all those things you mentioned, it's a lot of work behind the scenes, right? It's talking to, these days, you're not just talking to the high school coaches, but in all seriousness, like Coach Anthony is going to get calls because, Johnny and Jimmy are training with shooting school. And I know that's what I would be doing. You're going through, you're dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's. Well, how is he doing his workouts, Coach? Can you?
Exactly. That's true. Like, I say these things to our recruits. I tell them this is what we're looking for. I've never had a recruit say to me, Coach, I'm not those things, right? Everyone says they're all 4 of those things. So I tell them, that's great. I'm glad you say that, but I'm gonna do my research. And Haas can attest. I've called him about certain kids, So you're right.
Yeah,
I got to talk to mom, dad, high school coach. I've got to watch it. I watch as much as I can. Highlight films are great. I like to watch the full games. I'm watching you. How are you on the bench and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
the truth always comes out.
Yes, and prior to me joining up with shooting school, Coach, I spent a year with Hoop Group, and one of the things I did as director of summer camps was spend time at the exposure camps talking to the high school kids about what college coaches are looking for. And, they, of course, are interested in knowing the basketball parts of what the coaches, what we look for. But, I talk to them so much about how their body language and what they're doing when they're not in the game. Like if they're taken out of the game, whether it's because they made a mistake or just for, because it's the coach is making a sub, how they react, the eye contact they make with their coach, how they interact with their teammates when their teammates are coming off the court, giving them a high five, or are they off on the side by themselves? All those things play a big part, because when we're coaching them, when they're on our teams, we spend so much time with these young men. And I know for myself, we played at, obviously playing in the UAA, we're traveling, our road trips go from Thursday morning until Sunday night. And I don't want to be on the road, frankly, with knuckleheads. That's not what I want. I don't want to be around that. And, so it's such an important part of what we do. And I think it's an important message that we can send to the prospects and their families about, what this college basketball experience is all about. And it's more than just bouncing the ball.
Absolutely.
And so this, for players and parents, right? I mean, I think, Waleed, the 4-tier approach that you kind of broke down for us just now it's an awesome way to organize it. I'm sure people have it out there, but I love the approach of 4, basically, like, these are the 4 things we look for. That's phenomenal. But ticking off every box, like we talked about, sometimes you don't know if you're checking off every box for, the player's already on your team. And now it's like, oh man, I'm not sure if that player really does tick off that box. Are there, out of the 4, do you think that one of them is more important for your squad, for your team, what you're looking for as a player?
You're definitely right. Like, I don't want to make it sound like we get guys who check all 4 boxes. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3, but we've seen something like, this guy can become a better teammate. We've seen glimpses, not all the time, that kind of thing. In terms of which one is more important, I think guys who are good teammates, can go a long way. And then guys who, want to get better, who have a mindset of trying to improve, those guys end up doing okay, just because, if you are putting time in to get better, you usually end up loving the game. Then you become a little bit more competitive, that kind of stuff. So those things, if you have that kind of mindset, I think I can work with the rest, for sure.
Yeah. So, Coach, as you get now into a season, you talk about the recruiting side, and then our seasons begin. How has it been for you these 4 years, the challenges that during the season you face as a head coach of kind of navigating the academic rigors and the athletic responsibility that your players have? How have you been able to assist your players through that, process?
Yeah, I mean, I think, during the season, I think everybody deals with this same issue of time management, right? Like, you gotta be able to manage your time properly. And then again, it's not just the players, me too. I just got to figure out how to manage my time and prioritize what needs to be done and put off the things that maybe aren't as important or whatever. So we try to, our schedule allows us to not really miss a lot of class time. We're not flying on planes and that kind of thing. So that's a good thing. And then, we try to build the rest of our schedule, practice schedules and that kind of thing around our guys' classes. But the most important thing our guys need to learn, and we try to teach, we actually work on it, as soon as they step foot on campus, is how to plan ahead, how to see ahead what's coming. What's this week look like for you in terms of school? What's this week look like for you in terms of when are we practicing? When are the lifts? When are the workouts? Whatever is going on at the time, and then how can you make sure you get all your stuff done in a timely fashion without sacrificing things like sleeping and your health and, that kind of stuff. Because again, like, you guys want to perform on the court where you got to do everything right to be able to be at your best. So, but like I said, we try to really instill it in our guys as soon as they step foot on campus. We think as quickly as those guys can develop that ability to plan ahead, it'll be so helpful for them going forward for the next 4 years.
Yeah. And what about practice time itself, Coach? You mentioned you set up your practice schedule during the week, of course, around your class schedule, so the practice times vary. during the
Yeah,
week? Is that
for the most part. I mean, we're usually, either practicing, 4 to 6, 6 to 8. If volleyball's still in season, then, we might be going 8 to 10 because we're obviously got to balance with women's basketball, that kind of thing. So we usually figured out, usually our guys, there's occasional conflict here and there that can't be avoided, but it's not the end of the world when you miss one practice.
Right. And then what about the weekends? How does the weekends work at your school? Is there a mandatory day that you don't practice, a specific day?
No, we're allowed to practice on either weekend day. I think in the beginning of the year we take advantage of the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, for sure, just because those are the days when they don't have anything else going on. But once we get rolling in the season, especially second semester conference play, one of those days ends up being a day off because a lot of our games are Friday, Saturday. Guys will get Sunday off, and we try to allow our guys some free time on their own to go home and visit family or whatever the case may be, and just do their own thing. So second half of the year, Sundays will come off. First half of the year, we'll do a lot of stuff on the weekends, and every once in a while we'll take, we like to take a read on how our team is doing, how guys are feeling, ask them. As possible, we'll give our guys a weekend off or something like that, just because they need some rest early on in the year. We're beating them up too much or whatever. So.
Mm-hmm.
So Waleed, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here, Coach, but
I think we lost Coach there for a second. Seems to be for you. Good, Coach? You with us? Ant?
Yeah, I'm here.
I thought I lost you there.
No, so I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here, but I wanted to ask, because Waleed, for us, I know obviously the season is the best, time of the year. Everybody knows that, but you and I, the off season was intense, right? We, whatever it took, we were going to do 5 a.m. We were going to go wherever we had to do. I mean, I was driving into Hoboken to get in workouts from Staten Island. What does the off season look at Hartwick? Like, what does it look like? I mean, are you passing workouts along to guys individually to make sure they're doing certain things? Are guys going home to their own people training? What is the off season like, and how do you manage it for the guys that are on your team?
The off season, a lot of the off season is built off of those 4 things we look for. So if we can find guys who can do those 4 things, I'm not really too worried about what the off season looks like, because I know those guys are going to figure out how to keep working, similar to, what me and you, and a couple of those other guys back then were doing. So we try to structure some things. I mean, obviously, at our level, the stuff is not mandatory. But we want the guys who feel like it's mandatory, right? Who understand, like, if they miss a lift, like that's putting them, that's keeping them a step behind, kind of thing. So we spend a lot of time in the weight room. I obviously, I have a little bit of a strength and conditioning background, so I understand the weight room is a big part. So in the off season, our guys are in the weight room a ton. They play a ton of pickup. We encourage guys to, find time outside of those times to work on their game and that kind of thing. And if we can get the right guys, then it really starts to take me out of it. We try to spend the season, throughout the season, try to teach guys how to work out a little bit on their own, because, and you guys can probably attest to this more than I can. I feel like these days, some kids really don't know how to work out on their own, right? They need to be told what to do and that kind of thing. Keeping you guys in business, so we try to teach some things, and we try to talk to our guys, in meetings and stuff about things they want to get better at and how they can do that. We also try to get our guys to value the time, the time we have between the end of the season and the beginning of the season. Some guys like to call that summer, but it's not just summer, right? The season ends in March. You've got time at school where you can try to get better. So we try to break it up into chunks and be like, what can you get better at right now before the semester ends? Whether it's 1 or 2 things, just so that they can stay focused. And then if they can do that part right, then I feel really good about the summer itself, because hopefully they start to motivate themselves and build some good habits that they don't want to let go of once they really go on their own and leave school. But it all comes back to the kind of kid, and we try to coach them on that kind of stuff. And, we try to teach guys so they start to teach guys. And then eventually, hopefully I I really won't have anything to do with it. I'm there for guidance, and I'll send the workout if they ask and that kind of stuff. But I want the guys to be able to do it on their own.
Yeah. We used to say, Coach, that, off season is me time. And once we get, to preseason, and then obviously you start practice, then it's we time, you know?
Yeah. It's
so
a good time to be selfish.
Well, it's the time where you really need to work on your own game. And, once they get to us and we start the official action where we're working together, now we're putting the pieces together, and now, we're asking you to be part of the team. And, what you've done in the off season, the strides you make will play a part in how you'll be able to be most effective for the team in the upcoming season. Coach, I neglected to ask you, on the recruiting front, the other thing about recruiting at Hartwick, where are the majority of your players? Like, where do they come from?
From all over. Obviously, we're in New York, so we get a lot of New York, and we're upstate New York. So, I've got guys on my team from the upstate area, and we've got guys from Binghamton, Albany, Syracuse, Ithaca. But we do a good chunk of recruiting downstate as well. So we've got some guys from Nesci, Long Island, and then we kind of just span out a little bit in terms of, a 4.5 hour radius around, where we are. So we've got guys from Jersey. We've got guys I got a kid on my team from Rhode Island, another guy from Connecticut,
Okay.
a guy from Boston, so we kind of just stick in that 4 or 5 hour radius.
Gotcha. So, Coach, between your 4 seasons and obviously 7 years, you're would be considered now a long-time college coach, even though you're still, I would consider young, but to me, most everyone's young. Could you point out a season, Coach, that during your coaching career, was maybe a little more memorable so far?
That's a hard question to answer, I think. And I don't really have a favorite season as a coach. There have been a lot of really, really great ones. I've been around a lot of really great kids, and I think the special moments are the ones where, you keep in touch with the kids after they're done, that kind of thing. So we've got a lot of kids in the Stevens community who I still keep in touch with, who are, have even become friends and, that kind of thing. So those are valuable. I kind of really enjoyed this past season I had, with our guys, just because it was a year that we just saw so much, growth and improvement in a wide variety of areas on and off the floor, that it kind of felt a little bit special. We got a really good group of guys. We only had one senior on our team this year, so we've got our whole team next year. And, this was the first year where everybody on the team, not that this is like a big deal, but everybody on the team was a guy who I recruited, so they kind of knew what I was looking for.
Right.
But we had some guys who just, didn't like the results we'd had the last couple of years and had enough of it. And we're going to make some changes. We got, some good development in our leadership. And we took a bunch of steps forward this year. And the good thing about our guys is they're actually like really great kids. You mentioned knuckleheads and that kind of stuff. We don't have any of those guys. I don't lose sleep over what I think they're doing on their own and that kind of thing. Even if we had a bad game or a bad practice, these guys, I really enjoy being around, where you couldn't even really stay mad at them, as soon as you got walked off the court, right? Like, and that I think is special. I think we have a good bond. Even, like right now, we do a lot of Zoom calls and that thing as a team. And, it's fun. It's enjoyable. I never saw coming to work with those guys ever did I think about, anything negative, so to speak. So I'm just going to say that this year is one of my favorites so far. Just
That's great.
Kind of growth. That's
great, Coach. Coach, this has been so informative. I'm sure that those that are going to tune in are going to get a good idea of what Hartwick College is like, and then a little bit about what you're like. So that's a great thing. On a personal note, the one thing, Coach, the one other thing for me is what I like so much about Oneonta is that it's pretty near the Baseball Hall of Fame, which is one of my great spots I like to go to. I've been there a couple of times, and I guess it's a couple hours away. Like
No, it's much closer.
Or like maybe an hour.
35 minutes or so away from here.
Oh, it's that close. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very,
So that's
very good
for me, being a big baseball fan, that's a selling point. Ant, I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, it's okay. I mean, I just wanted to say, I mean, obviously folks know that this is the first time that I've been on the show. I've watched all the shows, and, you know, everybody, all of the coaches have been phenomenal. But from a personal level, I just want to say that, you know, I got to play with Waleed, and he was my captain. And so anybody that's interested in Hartwick, I could personally attest that this guy is a great leader, and he knows, you know, I'm not surprised that his 4th year in the school, you know, he's, you know, was one of his favorite seasons, if you will, because, you know, the guy is just a great leader. And I mean, it was an honor to play as a teammate with him. And I'm sure that all the kids probably agree at his program that he's a great coach to play for. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there.
I appreciate that. Very touching. Very touching.
I'm emotional.
Coach, yeah.
But they
Coach,
say, you know, if you're considered a great leader, you've probably got some good guys behind you. And Paz was one of those guys who, you know, he let you get at him. He let you go after him, and never got mad. He was a competitor, and, you know, the guys who compete are the ones I used to get along well with, you know, and that kind of thing. So Paz was one of my favorites, and, you know, obviously he's doing great things with what he's done, and, you know, this is, you know, what he's doing now is something he used to talk about when we were in college, right? This is what he's been working towards pretty much since I've known him. So pretty cool to see, and I would do anything for this guy. Hopefully he just doesn't ask too much.
Coach,
he wasn't too happy when I was beating him up in NHL though, in the video games
He taught me how to play NHL hockey, and again, you know, those were some pretty intense battles at times. So it was again. I miss those times because we spent a lot of time together, but great memories for sure.
Great. Coach, thanks again so much, and good luck, as I'm sure you're trying to wrap up recruiting.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Great. Thank you, Anthony.
See you guys.